Last night I was laying in bed and I was thinking about what I needed to talk to you about today, and I thought I really need to reach out to those people who are maybe in their house still from COVID and they don't want to go outside. You've got to go to the polls. You must go to the polls. It is really, truly vital. We are going to be, what's happening in Belarus right now is going to be happening here. And George Soros and the State Department, their allies, have done this to other countries. Just happened in Chile because of us, because of George Soros. It is really dangerous what's happening. Now, I want to explain what's happening with the mail-in ballots because it's not the post office. That is a ruse. Okay, that is to get you to go off track. It has nothing to do with the post office, with the exception that they are going to say all these ballots arrived at the post office after the election because of Donald Trump. They weren't postmarked on the day of the election. You can't allow those ballots to be counted. Because if you know where you need the votes and you can suddenly produce them after the election, well, then you can do anything. Because all you have to do is produce the votes. You're not going to produce the votes where, he's won handily. You'll find the districts that flip that state where it was really close, and you'll just produce new votes. That's the corrupt part of it, and that is going to happen, and that has something to do with the post office. They are laying the groundwork to be able to say, the post office didn't deliver. The post office, they had all these, and it didn't make it through the sorting machine in time because of Donald Trump. It will have nothing to do with truth on the post office. It'll have everything to do with picking the right places to add more votes to flip a state. Imagine what we went through in 2000. Imagine that happening in 4 different states. It's going to happen. Now, here are the things that you really need to understand when it comes to the mail-in ballots. Tonight's show goes much deeper. We're not even talking about the mail-in ballots. We've already done that show. This one is about high tech. But let me just finish up with the mail-in ballots because it's critical that you understand this. Americans expect to have an answer on Election Day. You are not going to have an answer on Election Day. Now, we might know, but they are setting up an absolute disaster because Americans are used to getting the results on election night. Well, because of all of these ballots that they're going to say haven't been counted yet, no network is going to call it for Donald Trump. And they're going to say, because all the Democrats went out and they voted by mail. Well, if you voted by mail, you should have voted early. But that's not what they're going to be saying, and that's not what they're saying. They're mail them. You can mail them even the day of. Just get it postmarked, and they're now pushing for the postmark not even to count. So they're going to count to the very, very end. And the media is going to come out and say, well, we don't have. There's so many people that voted by mail. It's overwhelmed the system. And it overwhelmed the postal system because we're just still getting them in now. So that night, they're not going to call the election. And it's going to look big for the president because a lot of Democrats are voting by mail. Republicans are not. So you're going to have, this is the spin they're going to give you. Well, yes, it looks like he won, and he won in multiple states, and he clearly has the Electoral College. But those can change over the next few days or even the few weeks as we go in and we count these ballots. So what they've done is they've taken the 2000 election and taken it out of one district and put it over the entire United States. And they will only focus on a few states, the ones that will change the Electoral College. And so they will They will continue to count the votes until they get it counted the way they want it, is my feeling. But it won't last like that. Hillary Clinton is already saying no matter what, Joe Biden should never concede. That's never happened in American history. We don't do that. This is what gives us peaceful transitions. If I will tell you this, if Donald Trump clearly loses on election night, I would say the same thing to him that I would say to Joe Biden. Give it up, man. Give it up. The people have spoken. I mean, I just saw a poll in New York City. Half of the people in New York City think the city is on the wrong track. The other half thinks it's finally on the right track. Now, I don't know if they mean since COVID or since, the de Blasio got in. I have no idea. If the people vote for their own destruction, they vote for their own destruction. And nothing's going to stop it. But fraud can't be tolerated. And you are being set up right now to expect an answer on Election Day when they are already saying it's going to drag out for days, even weeks. We may not even know until January. That's what the left and the Democrats are saying right now. That's going to require incredible restraint. Because here's what they're going to do. They're going to argue over every single ballot. Now, if you have these ballots in these Democratic cities and democratically controlled states, can you trust it? And here's why I say this. This is so critical. And let me ask you if you've even heard this story yet. This came out August 26th. As swing state Michigan approaches an election in which it could play a pivotal role, remember, Michigan, new data from its August 4th primary reveals that in 72% of Detroit's election precincts, recorded ballots counts for absentee voters did not match the number of ballots actually cast. So, wait, there were more ballots than people. The people in Michigan deserve to know what their elections, that their elections are being conducted fairly and competently. But today's news shows that Wayne County and the city of Detroit can't conduct an election to even the most basic standards. This is according to Laura Cox, the Michigan Republican Party. The Board of Canvassers in Wayne County, which includes Detroit, said the mess involves the ballots that were too tangled to ever unsnarl. Quote, it is so inaccurate that we cannot even attempt to make it right. Why are we even talking about mail-in ballots?
That's what I say when I'm making IKEA furniture.
Yeah.
And I get to that point, I was like, there's just this, I don't know. It looks like a spider. I don't know. At this point, just throw it out.
Throw it out. That's exactly right. It is the IKEA election. And there's going to be screws left on over in the end, and you're like, I don't even know what that one was for. It is so inaccurate that we can't even attempt to make it right. That's the chairwoman of the Board of Canvassers. Those are the people that are in charge of the election. Okay. Based on the inaccuracies that we saw during the canvass, something has to happen. We can't go into November with what occurred during the primary. See, the only state that really has done this is Washington. Washington State has been doing this now for about 10 years. But now we have, in the most critical election of our lifetime, quite honestly, the most critical election in the lifetime of the Republic, we have this going on. And it is intentional. So they have the setup with the post office to get an extension for the ballots that will need to come in. They will produce them. You can guarantee that. We know that fraud is already a part of it, but most importantly, 20% of mail-in ballots are rejected. This is on the average. 20% of mail-in ballots are rejected. And that's because they can't verify the signatures, somebody didn't check the box right, et cetera, et cetera. So you have a 20% error rate. Who wants to put that 20% error rate into full-fledged practice on states that have never done it before? Well, the states that are doing it, it's a 20% error rate. So they have to kick out 20% of the ballots, which allows the Democrats to then say, these people are disenfranchising votes. They're throwing away 20% of the people who voted. Disenfranchisement. And for those who don't know all of the facts in advance, you're going to believe that. The left is going to gobble that up. The media will make that into a big deal. It's already 20% on average. You can't kick out 20% without causing riots in the streets. That's what's coming.